Most of us don't enjoy thinking hard about a problem, and given the choice, would rather avoid the mental strain. So why does thinking feel like such hard work? Is your brain just lazy? Remarkably, the answer might be yes. But why? To understand this better, imagine that your mind is a newsroom and your decisions are made by two people, the reporter and the editor. The editor may be the voice of the publication, but according to Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman, it's the reporter who does most of the work. The reporter forms lightning-quick judgments and opinions based on pieces of information it gathers from your senses. It constantly interprets the world and writes stories for the editor, mostly without the editor realizing. The editor is who people think they are, the conscious, rational self that thinks slowly and makes the big decisions. The editor doesn't have the energy to verify the facts of the story, so it needs to trust the reporter and defend the story after publication, like making a snap judgment about someone and rationalizing it afterwards. Occasionally, the editor will use its limited energy to stop a story and verify facts. In real life, this could be tackling a tricky equation or searching for a friend in a busy shopping center. The editor works slowly and requires a lot of energy. Like every part of your body, your brain needs energy. The adult human brain weighs about 2% of the total body weight, but consumes 20% of the body's energy. Thinking requires a huge amount of energy. By using the editor only when needed, the brain is able to minimize effort and optimize performance. To appreciate the difference between the reporter and the editor, compare your experience of answering these questions. What is missing word number 5? What is 13 multiplied by 17? You automatically thought green to the first question. It could have been grape, but green came to you without effort because the list primed you to expect a colour. This is the reporter in action, always switched on, like a virtual assistant, doing things mostly outside of your awareness. In contrast, the answer to the second question required conscious effort. This is the editor in action. When we do something for the first time, like learning to drive, we rely on the editor. With repetition and effort, this skill becomes routine and is trusted to the reporter. That is until we need to do something that requires the editor, like finding somewhere to park. The reporter's thinking is fast and efficient, but it's also flawed. For example, it is easily fooled by optical illusions like the Muller-Lyer illusion. The bottom line is longer, right? Wrong. Both lines are the same length. The reporter comes to a very quick but completely incorrect interpretation of the world. Why is this? One possible explanation is that the angled wings on the bottom line resemble the inside corners of a building. This primes the reporter to think that it's closer to the bottom line, so it must be larger. In other words, the reporter jumps to conclusions based on its experience. But it isn't just optical illusions that cause problems for the reporter. Consider this quick question. How many animals of each kind did Moses bring onto the ark? The answer is easy, right? 2. Wrong. The answer is 0. It was Noah, not Moses, who brought the animals onto the ark. The Moses illusion is an example of how fast, intuitive answers from the reporter can be incorrect. Why do people get this wrong? Firstly, Noah and Moses are closely associated in the mind because they're both in the Bible. Secondly, the apparent ease of the question gives the editor a false sense of security, so instead of checking the facts, it blindly accepts the first answer that comes from the reporter. Here's another question. A bat and a ball together cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? 50% of people answer 10 cents, but this can't be true, because if the ball cost 10 cents and the bat costs $1 more, then the combined total would be $1.20. The correct answer is actually 5 cents. This question isn't particularly difficult, and most of these people could have checked their answer if they wanted to, but they didn't, because the editor is lazy and the answer seemed plausible. When questions appear easy, we go into a kind of mental autopilot. The cognitive ease we feel with the reporter often makes us believe that we know far more than we really do. So how do we turn off the autopilot and use the editor? To answer this, consider this version of the bat and ball question. A Ferrari and a Ford together cost $190,000. The Ferrari cost $100,000 more than the Ford. How much does the Ford cost? The format of this question is the same, but far fewer people get it wrong. One possible explanation is that the immediate answer, that the Ford is worth $90,000, causes enough disbelief that we have to stop and think harder, forcing us to use the editor. Just making the font slightly harder to read can be enough to make us think harder and avoid mistakes by the reporter. But the editor isn't foolproof either. In order to do things in a logical way and to solve complex problems, the editor needs to focus all of its resources and attention on one task at a time, which means it can sometimes miss the obvious. For example, in the so-called invisible gorilla experiment, people were asked to watch a video of two teams playing basketball and to count the number of passes made by players wearing white tops only. Halfway through the video, a person in a gorilla suit crosses the court, thumps his chest, and moves off screen. Only 50% of viewers reported seeing anything unusual when asked later. When we're focused on a mentally challenging task, we can become blind to the things going on in the background. What's more, we don't even know this is happening, meaning we can become blind to our own blindness. When the newsroom is running smoothly, the reporter does around 95% of your thinking, leaving the editor to relax and preserve its energy. The brain evolved this way to minimize effort and optimize performance. The reporter is fallible, so it certainly helps to have the editor verify the facts before publication. If you're teaching others, it may also help to make things slightly less clear to avoid the reporter's autopilot. But if it wasn't for the reporter constantly interpreting and writing stories without us realizing, then we wouldn't be able to navigate the highly complex world in which we live. We may identify with the editor, but it's the reporter who is the real star of the newsroom. If you enjoyed this content, you may also enjoy this video on willpower and ego depletion.